was on tour at a concert. She had long hair and a short miniskirt. I just got on stage, dripping pouring with sweat. I was walking through the crowd, and guess who I met? I whispered in the air, come to the picture booth so I can ask you some questions to see if you're 100 proof. I asked her her name, she said blah, blah, blah. She had and a very big bra. She was enthused. I said, how do you like the show? She said I was very amused. I started throwing bass. She started.
Hey guys.
Hey.
We are just gonna wait for people to come on in. If you are here, say hello.
Hey everybody.
You got
what I need. But you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you got what I need.
Hey, Louise. Hey, Rima. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Got what I need.
There you go. All right, so we're just going to wait for a few of you guys to come on in.
Dino, because I have friends, and that's a fact, like Agnes, Agatha, Jermaine, and Jack.
Yeah, you're horrible, Khalil.
I'm sorry. I couldn't. There's too much traffic where I was in the studio. I couldn't get a moment's place of silence behind me.
Hey guys, hey Melissa. Hi Selma. All right. I'm gonna try this. See? Okay. I'm almost proud of myself. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for coming on board. If this is the first time that you are watching Real Talk with Rachael-lea, I'm one woman on Facebook who does this show that talks about things that people are too afraid to talk about. If you are, like every week, I ask if you can click and share the video simply because Facebook's doing some stuff. Facebook, the algorithms are shifting and changing. So the more you share, the more I can get the word out there. Thank you so much, Akuya. You like my hair? Yeah, I'm getting used to it. It's a little bit more like girly, feminine-y girly.
I love it.
Going on. Thank you. Yeah, it feels good. It's good to shift and shake it up a bit. So once again, if you are here, come on in and say hello. We have some interesting guests this evening. We have Khalil, and Khalil is what I like to call a ex-friend-zoned guy. Can we say that? The ex-friend-zoned guy.
Yes.
Okay. And then we actually, we also have Frank KERMIT, and Frank is a coach. Yes?
That's correct.
And primarily what's very interesting about Frank is Frank does a lot of work, not just with men, but does a lot of work with men in regards to helping them build their self-confidence and approach women. And we'll get into a little bit more about what you do for sure. Okay? Hi, Donovan. Okay. If this also, what else do I have to say? Oh, there may be a bit of a delay between we're on a platform called Be Live, and you guys are on Facebook. So sometimes there is a little bit of a delay with our responses, or we may not get yours right away. So we'll try and get in as much information. We'll try and get the dialogue going and get your questions. It's really important when you engage with us as well, because it helps us keep the conversation interesting. All right? Okay, so Khalil is you are actually on set, yes?
Yes, I am. So there's too much noise in the studio and too much people going back and forth. So I'm just in my car right now because that's the only quiet place I could get, and I could run back to set if I have to. But yeah.
Well, I totally appreciate you coming online, even though you're going to be on set. I love that. Thank you so much. You reached out to me.
Yeah.
When I talked about the whole friend zoning thing. Why'd you reach out to me?
Well, because I have a lot of male friends and I have a lot of female friends, and I find that there's like a disconnect with my male friends and my female friends. My female friends are all saying, oh, where are all the good guys? I don't know any good men. I'm dating. I can't find any good men.
To us?
And
us? We say that?
Oh yeah. And it's funny enough. So I asked my female friends. I'm like, you must have some male friends that you know that are nice, that can introduce you to some of their friends, or maybe why don't you try taking a look at some of your male friends as an option. I came up, I guess, in terms of the way I was raised, and in my household, anyways, was that your spouse should be your friend. That's how my parents were raised, and I grew up seeing that. I grew up seeing my grandmother and my grandfather in their marriage talking with each other and being actual friends, right. Not always lovey-dovey. And the same thing with my mom, and she got remarried to my stepfather, and it's the same thing. I saw them really being friends. I may be like a little bit of an anomaly, but my parents were kind of like almost Cosby Show-ish, where it's like they were like Cliff and Claire.
Now, I just want to interrupt a sec. Here's the thing, though. There's a couple becoming friends and staying friends. Mm-hmm. And then there's, like, for example, I'm going to ask Frank to answer this question, and then we'll come back to you, Khalil.
Yeah.
I have guy friends. In fact, I made it a thing to have relationships with men. That's why Inside His Head started in the first place. Because I wanted... for those, if you guys don't know what Inside His Head is, a talk panel that I really wanted to understand men more.
Yeah.
I took time out to actually make friends with a couple of men, which I did. And we have never had any intimacy. There's never been any kind of dating thing. And to think that I would date one of those, it's like dating your brother. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about that, Frank? Like, do you think it's a good idea that women date their friends or keep it separate?
Okay, there's two ways to go about this, and this really depends on the case. In general, and I'm going to start off with the general advice. In general, everybody gets an audition. Everybody gets one date. So if you're in a situation where somebody is interested in you that's been a friend of yours for quite some time, and you only see that person as a friend, you owe it to yourself, never mind the other person. You owe it to yourself to give that person an audition. You give them one date to sweep you off your feet. But that doesn't mean you go on the date and you act disinterested, or you push him away, or he goes in for the goodnight kiss and you turn and give him your cheek. You actually go into it with a full, honest effort to allow the chemistry to happen. Sometimes you can have a really mediocre date, but you go in for that kiss and the chemistry ignites. So you never know what's going to happen. So that's the first thing.
But I think there's a certain time period where you'd want to be kissed by somebody that you could see as a friend. Like, I would literally, I think, vomit in my mouth if I had to kiss Caden or I couldn't.
Yeah, well, we're already going into this conversation saying, "Oh, I couldn't do it." Well, if you're going to go into anything, any goal, with the attitude of "there's no way this is going to work," you're going to sabotage it. You have to go into it saying, "Go ahead."
I want to hear from you guys. Would you date? Do you have a guy friend or a girlfriend? Because there's guys on here too. Would you date a friend that you've been friends with forever, or is there a certain time period where you kind of just gotta call it? I can't, because can I
before people tune in and answer? Can I interject? Like,
absolutely.
In terms of like friendship, I think, and maybe Kermit could speak to it, add on to what I'm going to say. I think there's levels of friendships. Like I have female friends who are like sisters, who are like absolutely like they're like my sisters. Nothing. We both mutually feel like there's a familial bond. And then I have female friends who I'm friends. There's like a level down from like familial. Like they are. Kermit, is it just me and you?
Right now, it looks like it's just me and you. So go ahead, keep talking. Let's see what we can continue.
Yeah. So I was saying, I think there's levels. There's levels of friendships. Like I was saying, I have female friends who are like sisters. I have female friends who are
like acquaintances.
Yeah, they're like acquaintances, and we're really cool. We talk with each other. We see each other once in a blue moon. Hey, how's everything? So we're like acquaintances, more than brother sister type of relationship, and some of them, and I'll be upfront. Some of them are very attractive, and you know, a lot of the time it would be a situation where it's like, okay, I may be in a relationship and they may not, or vice versa. And it's like, well, this person's a cool person, and it's not like there's an ulterior motive, but there's I guess a camaraderie that you share where it's like, hey, this person seems cool. And whether there's sexual chemistry or not, I think I'll be friends with this person. And I think those are the type of I guess relationships where you can kind of look and say, hey, yeah, like I agree with your sentiment. Like you should give everybody everyone should get at least one audition to say like, hey, you know what? Why not?
So okay, I'm still feeling rather uncomfortable.
Oh, you got cut out. Did you hear all of what I said or no?
I did.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Frank, do you think all males, all men, both of you can answer, but let's ask Frank. All men, when they meet a woman, even if they're friends, secretly want to sleep with them?
I disagree. It's not a secret. They do. There is no secret there. Where's the secret?
Yeah.
You know, don't men secretly want to have sex? No, they're just waiting for the opportunity, but they don't know how to make that happen.
Really?
That's more like
all guys? Because I don't know.
There's a level of an attraction there. Absolutely.
Let me explain something to you so you understand men, okay? If you really want to understand men, here it is.
I do.
There was a study done by Dr. Steve Stosny. He wrote the book Love Without Hurt. In the study he presented at this seminar that was about domestic violence intervention, one of the things that was presented is that men get oxytocin, the love hormone, released in the brain in large quantities in only 2 ways. Only 2.
Okay.
Long, full body embraces and the act of sex. It's the only 2 ways that a man will get that major level of oxytocin in the brain. Women, on the other hand, they get this in a lot of different ways. A good conversation, a stimulating meal, a wonderful evening out. She'll get the oxytocin in the brain, and it feels wonderful.
Right.
That's why when a man and a woman are having a romantic date, she gets swept away, and it's wonderful. And if the date does not end in sex, she walks away thinking, that was the greatest night of my life. And the guy walks away thinking, what did I do wrong? Because he's not feeling the oxytocin released in the brain. So wait. I want you to enter.
Pause that. I want you to keep going. Hold where you're going. So what you're saying is that on a first date, if we don't give the cookie, you actually feel like you've done something wrong?
That's not what I said. What I said was, if it's a very romantic date where the woman is experiencing oxytocin in the brain, and she's feeling feelings of attachment, she's feeling this emotional range, she's feeling all this wonderment, and she says, wow, this was an amazing night, I am moved within from this night. Right. A man won't have the exact same reaction because we didn't get that oxytocin in the brain.
Interesting. Is that right, Khalil? You agree?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Now let's just go one step further here. Yeah. Imagine that the only way that you can get something is through a very specific means. So let's say the only way you can get nourishment is to eat one specific thing. that specific thing is going to be on your mind. That specific thing is going to take a precedence. And if you're engaging in someone and they can't offer you that specific thing that you need for some measure of balance, for some measure of survival, you're not going to exactly be feeling very endearing and very in the moment with someone.
Okay. All right. So I want to slightly go back and thank you for that, Frank. By the way, this is Frank's first Facebook Live, so I'm deflowering Frank, feeling all good. He's being deflowered tonight, and
this is good. I haven't been deflowered in years, so this is kind of nice. And it's a threesome. How about that? It couldn't get much better.
Awesome.
Hey. That's how rumors get started, you know.
You brought it up. You talked about deflowering me. Okay, then if you're going to bring it up, I'm taking it all the way. I deflowered Frank. Yes, it was a threesome on Facebook Live. It's fantastic.
Virtually, yes. Was it as good for you guys as it is for me right now?
Yeah.
I'll let you know afterwards.
All right. So, Khalil, tell us a little bit about your experience with being friend zoned.
Oh wow, man! I'm a person. I've always loved the company of females. So I used to a long time ago work in a barbershop and a hair salon, and I would always go and hang out with the women. After I finished cutting someone's hair, I'd go hang out with the women. Sometimes I'd wash hair a little bit. One of the stylists showed me how to wash hair, so I'd wash hair and prep them. And I just found women interesting. I've always liked being around women. I enjoy the camaraderie, and I have a lot of female friends. And again, varying levels. And I've been in situations where I've expressed, hey, why don't we go out? We've had a good conversation. Why don't we go out? Why don't we continue this over dinner or whatever? And yeah, I've been friend zoned a lot. I've been friend zoned a lot.
Why that's we're friend zoned? Like, are you? Nice?
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't their type. I don't know. Like I've been in situations where I've had female friends and I've seen them at the tail end of the relationship, and I've been respectful, gave some space, and then when they started dating again, I'm like, okay, they're dating again. Let me shoot my shot. And yeah, I was, and again, maybe it could be I was put in that box of, oh, I only see you as a brother, but it was a lot of the times it was no dice, and I was like, what?
I think what I would like to say, and I don't know if the women agree with me, but I feel like once a man starts to become the listening ear, the counter, the guy who you talk to when the guys aren't like treating you right or you're not sure, our counselor, the sexual polarity just goes. Yeah,
shoot, yeah. I figured that out relatively early, and I'm trying to guide my son. My oldest son had that experience. He liked the girl, and I said explain the relationship to me, and he was the listening ear, and I kind of stopped doing that once I turned like 16. So I would have my women friends categorized. I'd be like, okay, you're my friend who I would never cross that boundary with, and you're my acquaintance who, if opportunity is perfect in my situation and their situation, I will shoot my shot. But I would never fall into that category. If I knew I was attracted to them that way, I would never fall into the category of being the listening ear, or I would never fall into that. I would try never to box myself into that category of being the chum that they dump all their problems to and then go and date the jerk.
Frank, what do you feel about that? Because I feel like once a guy becomes my counselor or my guy that I don't really want to get with you now because you're like, sexy anymore. It's not. You're my dude. You're my guy that I talk to when I want advice. I now do not want to engage with you. So, Frank, what do you think about that?
All right, let's start off with a very specific rule here. Love is not blind. You know how they say love is blind? Love is not blind. It's just that categories are rigid. And when someone gets put into a category in your mind, it's difficult to move that person from one category to another, to go from the friends category to the lover category. It is possible to break out of the category, but there's a process to it. In terms of being the guy that's listening to her problems, that unto itself is not a bad trait. It's good to be a good person. It's good to be a generous person. Here is the problem. The only emotion that she's experiencing with that particular guy is a constant stream of negative emotion. And she's always unloading. She's constantly talking about her problems. She's constantly unloading. This is, and we have to remember, we are emotional creatures, both men and women. We associate people with the emotions they trigger within us.
Right. Yeah.
So if someone is constantly listening to you, and it's always negative.
Yeah.
If there's nothing to balance that out, if it's not, for example, hey, we're going off, we're having an adventure, we're going out on a date, we're going out and doing something really fun and amazing and wild, and then we're going to talk about some of the problems, and then we're going to listen to each other and support each other, and then we're going to go off and do something fun. If there's a range of emotion, no problem. But what ends up happening to a lot of these nice guys is that's all they do. They just play the therapist role, and that's why these women are associating such negative emotions with these guys.
Yes.
So that's basically part of it. It's not the whole thing, but that's one key component. So the advice I give to guys who are in that position where a woman is now just getting into the habit of talking about their problems and then saying, okay, thanks for listening. I got to go now. Bye. Click.
Exactly.
It's to say, okay, stop. And for all the guys listening, I want you to practice this line. Practice this line in the mirror. Stop. I'm not your therapist.
Amen.
When you're with me, we have fun. Okay? Stop. I'm not your therapist.
I'm going to take
a couple with me, we have fun.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to take a couple
and
of
then
comments.
Immediately, okay, let's hear the comments.
So Mahuli said sometimes being a listening ear works out for many as well. Unless I'm already attracted.
It can.
Unless I'm already attracted.
It can.
Okay, let me take another.
It can help. Okay.
Okay, respond, Frank. It can. How?
It can, as long as there's other elements involved. If all you are is the listening ear, then all of the negative emotions she feels gets associated with you. If you're listening, but you sandwich that between having an adventure and having fun and being the guy that takes her and gives her a variety of emotions, now it's just one emotion amongst many.
I agree.
Okay, all right. Anne-Marie said, didn't she just get bypassed by somebody else because the new guy is more aggressive in pursuing, and this really turns the lady on? I'm not sure. I think we're too...
Do
you know what...
No, I can answer this.
Yeah, please do.
I can answer this. Basically, she's saying, but isn't it just that some other guy was a bit more aggressive in pursuing, and the nice guy doesn't pursue as much?
Yeah, the nice guy...
And she's right. Guys who are, to use the term jerks, the one quality a jerk has in abundance is he's incredibly assertive. Maybe too assertive, but he's so assertive that he chases her, and assertiveness is an emotional need that women respond to.
Yes.
The nice guys are not assertive enough. So who would a woman want to date? The guy that's too assertive and a bit of a jerk, or the guy that's not assertive enough? She's already responding emotionally to the guy who's too assertive, so she'll take the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah, I agree. I hear you. Okay.
For myself, I stopped getting friend zoned when I had to learn that instinctively myself. I was very as a teenager very passive. And it was up until my 30s. That's when I started getting assertive and I said, why don't I just say what I want? And and that's when it started working out for me, where I was like, okay, I can just be upfront about, hey, I like you, or I think we should go out. And that's when I started getting a lot more yeses. And I stopped, and I stopped being just a friendly air. Like I would balance, like what Frank said, I would balance it out. I can listen to a problem or two, and then I just, talk to the woman about herself. Like, tell me about something else now. Okay, we've listened to your problem. Okay, what else are you doing? What are you doing for yourself? What's going on with you? And I would always try to switch it up like that. I don't like to get put in that box. So I realized that early on. So what Frank is saying is bang on. At least for me, that's when I noticed things started to change for myself.
Perfect. Frank, there's a question for you.
Okay.
Go ahead. What were you going to say? And then I see a question.
I just want to make a quick point. It's one of the things I teach guys. You stop being a nice guy when you want to be respected more than you want to be liked.
So they're not supposed to be nice? What kind of messages are you putting out
there? I didn't say that. I didn't say that. What I said is a guy that wants to be liked is going to say what he thinks you want to hear.
Right.
A guy that wants to be respected is going to tell you exactly what he's thinking, which is an attractive feature. Because the guy who's saying exactly what he's thinking, you can trust him more than you can trust the nice guy who's constantly censoring himself.
Yeah.
Frank, you're very good, Frank.
I know.
Very good. I do actually want to, hold on, let me just, if you want to find out more about Frank does, he has a website called franktalks.com, and he's also the author of From Friends to Lovers. So Frank will be able to tell you a lot about that, and we'll repeat his information before the end of the show. I want to take a comment from Vanessa. When it comes to a good guy friend, I have been afraid of opening the relationship door, because if something goes bad, then it could ruin a friendship that I value. If it doesn't work out, what do you do? What do you back to? The friendship has forever changed. Yes,
hello?
You're all here.
Okay.
We're all here.
Jump out.
Okay, hold on. Okay, how do I hide this? All right. Oh, wow. Okay, so we have two of you. I'm going to get, there you are. You there? Okay, wrong you. Keep going, Frank. Maybe you can answer that.
I'd love to answer this. Vanessa, thank you very much for the question. Here's what I would tell anybody in your situation. Number one, the friendship has already changed because one of you has a romantic interest. So the friendship already is going through a catharsis of some kind. It's already going through a change. The biggest regret I hear from older women who are alone later on in life is, I never gave certain people a chance that now I'm thinking about and who, I could have been with.
Yep.
That's friendship, by the way.
Frank, you hit the nail on the head. Frank, you hit the nail on the head. I have so many older women friends said the same thing.
Not just the older women, okay? Careful how you guys say older women.
Okay, they're old enough to regret. That better?
Yeah, old enough.
You're old enough to regret. That makes you older. How do you know you're older? You're old enough to regret.
Oh, my God.
Just deal with it, okay? Ladies, I got news for you. No guy cares about how old you are. Not one. All he cares about is how you treat him. Okay? That's all he really cares about.
Yes,
you
this is
worry
true.
About your age. We don't. Are you going to treat me good? Are you going to back me up? Are you going to put out? That's basically it.
I love you. I love you.
Okay.
Straight talk, Frank. I love it.
Okay, so
it's Frank talks.
There are. I know.
To answer Vanessa. I want to answer Vanessa. One more thing, Vanessa. The chances are that 10 years from now, the friends you have right now are not going to be in your life. They're going to move on. They're going to have lives of their own. Not one of these friends or friendships that you're trying to hold on to is going to be there in 10 years from now, because chances are some other girl is going to latch on to him and he's going to have kids. He's going to have a future that you're not going to be a part of.
Yeah.
So your friendship is already heading for an end. Make the most of it now. And if you two try and date and it doesn't work out, I got news for you. And ask anybody who has some life experience. The majority of people who they were close with at one time are not in their lives through the fact that life happened and you don't even know where you're going to be living. You might have a completely different life in 10 years from now. Don't waste your time holding on to it. It's so precious. If it's that precious, if he's really that much of an amazing guy that you want to hold on to him, he deserves an audition. Give him an audition and give him a chance. You don't have anything to lose because if he already likes you, the friendship's over.
Yep.
But
I agree.
Well, what if he doesn't like you that way, and then you ruin a whole relationship? Because if I reverse it, right? Like, there's been a time where a man has been interested in me, and I don't see him that way, and then now it's weird. Now it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
And
yes, and it's going to be uncomfortable until you learn how to handle your own emotion. But if you don't make the try, if you never try, people don't regret the things they've done as much as they regret the things they've never tried.
They didn't do. Yep.
Amen.
Amen. Hey, like I said, for most guys that I know who have taken a shot at a female friend and have been shot down, they're cool with it because it's off their chest now. It's like, hey, you know what? I shot my shot. You said no, you'd rather just be friends? Okay, I'm good. I can move on. I can move on now with a clear conscience, and I can put you in this box, and now, you know, I can set my eyes elsewhere.
Yeah, I think women may feel a bit
Yeah, women do feel, they hold on to it a bit longer. What I find in my experience anyways.
Okay, so one of the things that you talk about, Frank, in your book is neediness. Like, men can be.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit around what were you going to say, Khalil? You still there?
Yeah, but I gotta sign off now because I gotta run to set.
You gotta run to set. Khalil, thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been a blast, guys, and yeah, Rachel, if you ever have another topic, I'd love to come on and chop it up.
I would love to have you on. Thank you for coming. Okay.
Frank,
nice meeting you.
Frank,
nice
you're great. You're great at your job, man. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll make friends on Facebook.
All right.
All right. Okay.
All the best. Bye-bye.
So it's you and I. All right. So you talked a lot about, or we've slightly discussed, I wanted you to touch on, what are the key things that you need to, as a man, because needy's not sexy either way.
No,
but
it's not. Okay, speaking as somebody who was friend zoned for the majority of his young life.
Yes, talk a little bit about your history.
Okay, my history. I was stood up at the prom, lost my ex-fiance to one of my best friends, hung out with a girl for 2 years who insisted that we could never date because we were too different of race and religion and so on. And then after 2 years of hanging out with me paying for everything,
did you not
she
know
announces to me
when you were paying for everything?
I know.
Did you not know?
I knew, but I figured what I felt at the time was, well, we can't date because there's all these other obstacles in the way. But I'm still going to enjoy this conversation. I want to enjoy this connection. And why was I thinking that? Because I was needy. I wanted the attention. I wanted the connection so bad. And then one day she announces that she's getting married to a guy who was a lot like me. So all those things that she says we can never date because, well, this guy was because. You
groomed him. So you actually groomed her to find someone just like you.
Maybe. And then, of course, I go back into my history of all those times that I did get friend zoned. I reached a point where I said, fix this. I have to figure out what is going on. I got to figure out what the rules are because I got to the point where I was suicidal. Wow. And I said, it's either I'm going to learn about what makes people attracted to one another, what brings people together, what makes it work, or I'm going to kill myself. Whoa. And that was the mindset that I was in. It was a very, very horrible period of my life. And that's when I just said, I'm going to assume I know nothing and I'm starting from scratch. And I spent the next 3 years studying everything I could, and then trying it. Meaning I would read a book and it would say, bring her flowers on a date or bring her flowers to get. I would go out and do that, and I would document it. Somebody would say, go sit under a tree in a park, read a book. Girls will approach you. I tried it, saw what happened, documented everything. And through the documenting process is where I saw repeating behavior patterns. I saw when things worked, when things did not work. And after 3 years, I finally ended up getting my first girlfriend in 5 years. So that was a 5-year dry spell. And it was, okay, now I got this girlfriend. I'm writing and I'm documenting everything. Within 6 months of that.
Tell us what, that's a long time, Frank? There's a lot of solo sex.
Yes, it is.
A lot of...
Yes, there is. And I made it a point. I'm not going to go to prostitutes. I'm not going to pay for sex. I want it to be legit. I want to connect legitimately myself. And look, within 6 months of that first girlfriend, which was in an open relationship, I ended up with 5 lovers and girlfriends, juggling them at the same time for a period of 3 months.
Well, look at you!
And it was a very interesting time of learning. And it was because I was documenting everything, and I would say, okay, let me behave this way. For example, if the girl would come over, I wouldn't let her cook for me, and I wouldn't let her do the dishes because I wanted to see what kind of a response I would get. So it was a lot of experimental learning. It was an experimental process. Here's what I learned, and here's how I broke the concept of getting out of that friend zone box, okay?
Tell me.
A woman can only play one of 2 roles in a man's life. She's either his mother or she's his lover. She can't be both.
Agreed.
If the man behaves in a way that triggers her mothering instincts, she'll start feeling motherly towards him. Oh, he's like my son. He's like my brother. I have to take care of him. We've got a good friendship going. It is difficult to go from that category of the brain into the category of the brain that says lover.
Right.
What is this based on? Women have a set of emotional needs that they emotionally respond to. This has nothing to do about what she intellectually likes. This is why a woman will say, I want a nice guy, because intellectually, she's thinking she wants a good man. But who is she emotionally responding to? Someone who is not a good man. What is going on here? What's going on is that the good guy is only addressing some of her emotional needs. That's why she says he's a great guy. I want him in my life. But he's not addressing enough of the emotional needs that makes her say, that's the guy I want to be with. Whereas the jerk, and we gave this example earlier in the interview, because he's so much more assertive, and women respond emotionally to assertive men.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, she feels compelled to say, well, the guy is assertive. He's halting the mothering instinct. By halting the mothering instinct, she feels the potential to be a lover. And that's the whole basis. So what I did in my behaviors, and part of my development was to go back to a lot of those girls who initially rejected me from years before even.
Right.
And then when I presented myself as the kind of guy that, okay, well, now I'm going to be assertive. Now I'm more interested in being respected than you liking me. Once I started to address those specific emotional needs, a mistake I used to make in my youth, I would talk too much. And women didn't always feel safe to have their reputations protected.
What do you
mean
by
that?
What do you mean by that?
Let's say I would date a girl and I might talk to my friends about things that may have gone on the date.
Right.
She could never really feel like, well, if something goes on between me and him, is he going to share that with his friends too?
Right. But that's
one of the changes I made. No, because everybody justifies their own behaviors based on what they believe is and is not okay. Mm-hmm. One of the things I learned is I must protect a woman's reputation at all times.
Right.
Because by being the guy that protects people's reputations, she's going to feel more safe with me. Her guard goes down. She doesn't feel that she has to mother me anymore. And because I halt the mothering instinct, when I say, look, we're not talking about these things. I don't talk about people in that way. I don't share that information. all of a sudden she realizes, okay, I don't have to mother this guy. The mothering instinct gets halted. Mm-hmm. She now has the potential to be a lover. In fact, on my website right now, I've got about 8 to 10 reviews from women who initially friend-zoned me and who ended up dating me. If you go to my autobiography, From Loser to Seducer, on franktalks.com, the first 8 to 10 reviews there are of the women featured in the book.
I love it. I love it. So what made them come back?
My behavior. By talking with them, by engaging them. My goal at that point was to simply address emotional needs through behavior and conversation. Now, let's say I was on a date with you. My goal would be to find out which of the 10 emotional needs do you respond strongest to.
And what would these 10
And I'll do that.
be?
Okay, for example, protection of reputation. That's usually emotional need number 1. Now, I might bring up a story about how I was once at a club and some girl approached me and we talked. Another female friend saw me. The following week I was at a house party and girl number 2 asked me, so did you go home with girl number 1? My response was, I don't talk about those things in public. I don't share anything that happened with anybody. So I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. I'm just going to say, please don't ask me that again.
Okay.
That woman, the girl number 2, at that point realizes, wow, he's not talking. So I don't know if he did. But one thing's for sure, if I'm going to be with Frank, he's not going to talk about me either.
Right, absolutely. I think. Okay. What's number 2?
Women want a range of emotion. So remember we were talking about the nice guy is always listening to the girl's problems. That's one emotion that she associates with him. That's why, especially at the beginning, a girl starts talking about her problems. Stop. I'm not your therapist. When you're with me, we have fun. Now we go do something fun. So this is the motion I tend to make to try and communicate this. Emotional range. Here's a little secret. Sometimes a guy's going to be honest with a girl to the point that it upsets her. Yeah. That's okay. All right? Because for a woman, she's just experiencing it as part of the range of emotion. Oh, he's a lot of fun, but he makes me so mad. But oh, he's really funny and I can talk about my problems. And it's a range of emotion. She responds emotionally to that. Honesty to the point of upsetting her is another emotional need of women. Because women are used to being lied to. Every guy is, sorry?
To the point of upsetting her?
To the point, what this means is that, let's say you were to ask me a question and you want an honest answer. Mm-hmm. But the honest answer I give you might upset you. If I'm a nice guy, I'll censor myself or I'll lie because I don't want to upset you. Right. My intention is good. The execution of it is incorrect. If, however, I'm completely honest with you, you may get upset, but you will respect the fact that I'm honest with you, even if it costs me going out with you. And when you get upset, what do most nice guys do? Oh, please don't be upset. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. A man who wants to be respected says, hey, knock it off. Okay? You want me to be honest? I'm going to be honest. But if you keep acting like this, it ain't going to work.
I know there's a lot of women out there that are like, oh, he said knock it off. He said knock it off.
Knock it off. How dare he? I can't believe this. Oh, he makes me so mad. But he has the nicest eyes, and he's been talking, and obviously he cares about it, and it's all emotional range. And it feels good. Women hate being bored. You can't make a woman happy all the time. That's one emotion.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you give her a little bit of this, she feels alive.
Yeah, it's
and every woman wants to feel alive from the inside.
It is true. Okay, so what's next?
Okay, we have cater to the little girl in her. And what this is that sometimes instead of coming down on her and saying, you got to behave like an adult, you got to do this. You know what? Women are under a lot of pressure to be perfect. And women put pressure on each other to be perfect. Sometimes the nicest thing you can do is say, let's go out for ice cream, and take her out for some ice cream. Sometimes when she does something very inappropriate, for example, dating a girl, she was really acting unpleasant in the moment. My phone rings in my home. She went and answered it and said, who is this? That's very inappropriate. Okay? Now, I had a choice, and this was my time of experimentation. She was one of the first 5 that I was dating. My initial reaction was to get in there and say, what the hell are you doing? But I didn't. I wanted to experiment. So I decided, let me cater to the little girl in her. So instead of yelling and screaming,
right,
I called her into the bedroom. I says, I want you to sit down. I want to speak to you. And I began to speak to her in this tone, with this finger. And it is inappropriate to pick up the phone in someone else's house and be rude to the people on the other end. You don't know who that was. It is completely unacceptable for you to do that, young lady. The woman I was doing that with was like 20 years my senior, and I'm sitting there and in a very calm tone, and to my shock, okay, you have to understand, this was an experiment at the time. I was just treating her as if she was a misbehaving little girl. And I said, now I want you to go into the other room, and I want you to sit on the sofa, and I want you to think about what you just
No, you
done.
did not. No, you did not.
Okay. What do you think she did?
She went into the sofa and sat down and thought.
She got up. She got up, and she looked like a 5-year-old child that had just been gently scolded. And she walked into the other room. She sat down, and she literally sat there and thought about what she did.
Wow.
And then I went in after a couple of minutes, and I said, well, it's okay. Okay, you're forgiven. But I don't want any more of that behavior, all right? Okay. And that was more powerful and moved her more than any yelling and screaming and swearing ever could have done. And she never, ever picked up the phone in my apartment again.
So you're saying sometimes addressing the inner little girl is effective, or is it like, are you taking advantage of that little girl? Like,
I don't think I'm taking advantage of it, because when I speak directly to who a person is on the inside, they're going to listen. And this is a conflict resolution method that you can use with anybody. There are times when you need to approach somebody, and if you approach them with grrr, most people will respond with grrr.
Yeah.
And if you approach them with, this is not going to work.
Yeah, okay.
All of a sudden, they have to be open to it, because you are being very inviting, and you're saying the behavior is not acceptable. I never called her a bad name. I would never destroy anybody's self-esteem like that, but I will make it clear that certain behaviors will not continue if you want to continue to be with me. And that's about wanting to be respected instead of liked.
Okay. A comment did come up, but I don't think it's come up on BeLive yet. It says, sounds great how diverse were your findings. Okay, so how diverse were your findings? I hear you, but I'm not connecting with this approach regarding the little girl. So what's another way that you can approach the emotional need of women?
Okay, to answer this question, there's 10 emotional needs that I have identified that when are addressed in a woman will gain a certain type of response. It's not going to work with every single girl, because not every girl has a need for the inner child to be addressed. Not every girl cares about the protection of her reputation.
Right.
Not every girl wants that level of emotional need.
Because we're like at 9:19. Let's run down some of the other ones.
Okay, we talked about assertiveness. Emotional need number 4 of women is assertiveness, and women will respond to assertiveness. Again, the key here, and maybe let me just make this statement. Each woman, just like each man, has an emotional needs profile. So if you have 10 emotional needs, you start off by assuming that, okay, each emotional need is 10% of who she is.
Right.
And then the whole collection is 100%.
Right.
But that's not how human beings are put together. One woman may not care at all about her reputation, but that means that one of the other emotional needs is going to be that much stronger.
Right. So give us those.
And some other one. Okay, another emotional need could be fear of abandonment. And especially if she is feeling the sense that, oh, he doesn't like me enough, or I may never find somebody else, because if this person abandons me, I'll end up alone. So fear of abandonment is best addressed by communicating to her what is unique about her. This is very important for people who practice open relationships, where she doesn't want to feel like just another notch in his belt, but she wants to know that there's something unique about her that he can appreciate and connect with that he can't find with other people. So fear of abandonment can be a huge one. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want to ask a question that's come up. Sometimes when guys are, though a lot of us say we like a guy, a funny guy, you know, a guy that's like, can make us laugh.
But you don't want a clown.
Right.
You don't want a clown.
Right. So.
Okay, here's how humor works. Here's how humor works as an attractor. Remember this? Humor is one of the most effective ways to give a woman emotion. Because humor, especially if you do the what's called opposites humor, you're having a tender moment and then you'll make a joke that is completely outside of that tender moment. Or you're talking about something serious and then you go completely silly. That provides a range of emotion.
Right.
Humor also can address emotions. For example, depending on the joke he makes, it could address, cater to the little girl in her, which is number 3. If he makes a joke where, you know, it's almost like, wow, you're a real jerk for making that joke, it might inadvertently address her need for assertiveness. Humor unto itself is a...
Sorry, what I'm trying to get at is when a guy is too funny. Let's put aside if he's a comedian, okay? But like as a profession. But if a guy, and girls, not girls, ladies, I'd love for you to talk about this too, or give your opinion on it. When a guy's constantly cracking jokes, the sexual polarity just kind of goes, and I think the same with women. Like, I'm a funny woman. Like, I have a great sense of humor and I'm funny, but I think there needs to be a balance because... Okay,
well, you're going to love the answer to this. First of all, when a guy is always funny, it's just one type of emotion. It's not a range. Number 2, when he's always acting like a clown, he's basically always acting like a kid. He's triggering the mothering instinct. Because now she's thinking, I got to be the adult now. I got to make sure he doesn't cross the line. I got to make sure that he behaves himself in public. Once that mothering instinct comes over, the humor is now working against him. So humor is great. And that's why, hey, I have a funny friend. He's great as a friend. I like him enough to keep him around. I don't like him enough to keep him in. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, for you to say that, now let's look at the opposite way, okay? For men, sex for men is an emotional need because of the oxytocin released in the brain that I talked about before. Right. So when a woman is too funny around a man, he's still going to want to have sex with her. He won't necessarily want to commit to her. And that is where, when you want to get a man's commitment, you have to address his emotional needs to get the commitment. When you address a woman's emotional needs, you get her love.
Okay. So what would you say to do then? If the guy is naturally a bit of a clown, the woman is a bit of a, because I surround myself with a lot of very funny women.
Okay. How many times have I made you laugh in this interview?
Couple times, yeah.
I think, okay. I can make you laugh, but it's not the only it's not the only experience I've given you.
Yeah.
I've given you some experiences of almost getting you a little angry, making you wonder who the heck is this saying that to me? Knock it off. Well, irk you. I also made some jokes. The threesome joke. I made some jokes. Frank, you're good. Yeah, I know. I kept a variety. It's okay to be funny.
Yes.
But it's not okay to be just funny. Funny alone is not enough.
Agreed. Okay. If you guys have any questions for Frank, I've been trying to put my phone up here at the same time so I can watch what's going on your end. But if you guys have any questions for Frank, please let me know. And then we'll take it from there. Is there any other advice that you'd like to give out to, let's say, women who are passing over the friend zone, and one piece of advice for men? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Okay, yes. For the women, all right? Adopt this rule. Everybody gets one date to sweep you off your feet. And you let them know You let them know. You say, look, I'm really not sure if anything's going to happen on this, but I'm willing to give you a chance. And when you go on that date, give him a legitimate chance, because that's all it may take for the chemistry to ignite where there was none. Mm-hmm. Okay, chemistry is not automatic. Chemistry needs a bit of work to ignite. What you feel when you feel automatic chemistry with somebody, that's not chemistry, that's lust.
Oh, that's a good question.
Don't get chemistry, lust, and go ahead.
That's a good question. I've heard that sometimes when you go out with someone and you feel these butterflies, oh my gosh, it's not necessarily the person that you should be with. I've heard that. And I know I've been on dates with guys where I'm like, it's not like I'm feeling like, oh my God, he's the most, but there's something about him that makes me attracted to him. So like someone
we do not control. Yeah, I get it. We do not control who we are attracted to. That's not something we control. We are control of our behaviors that we choose to enact.
Right.
And if you want to be with a good man, you have to choose to date good men. And when somebody's not treating you the way you should be treated, it's up to you to choose to stop dating that person. If you base that on how you feel, you end up alone.
Yeah. So if you go by your feelings alone.
If the only thing is, I'm only basing it on how I feel, you're only going to keep getting the same thing you've always gotten.
You hear that, ladies? Repeat that again, Frank. Take us to church.
If you only go by what you already feel, you're always going to repeat the same behavior patterns. You can't wait until you feel something to do it. You can't wait until, but I have to feel in love with somebody. I have to feel the chemistry before I go out. No, you commit to the behaviors. You go out on a date because your body and your brain respond to action. So if you go on an action and you actually go through the process of a date, you are programming yourself to be open to the potential chemistry that may be there.
Now, that's the preach. Now, what I think sometimes is that women sometimes think that it's only like, okay, let me give an example. There's been like stunning, gorgeous men. It has nothing to do with looks. There's stunning, gorgeous men who have been friend zoned. And then there's like guys that society would deem less attractive who are getting all of the women. What is that about?
It's because those guys that are less attractive through their behavior, through their communication, are addressing emotional needs. And those really good-looking guys are somehow violating emotional needs. For example, he's so good-looking that he would eventually leave me because I don't have enough of a self-esteem to think he'd stick around. So that violates fear of abandonment.
What about though, like, is it the same with women? Because I find like women, like the girls in high school, right? The pretty ones in high school. They didn't have to really try that much to work on their other areas in their life. I always use this as an example. Those of us, because I wasn't like the pretty girl in high school, got better when I aged. Right. But I worked on other things in my life, my personality, my smarts, all of those things. Is there some validity to that?
There's something called the sexual attention paradigm. And that generally states that men usually are on the projecting end of sexual attention, women are on the receiving end. We can apply this now to people in general who are very attractive. If you're very attractive and you're constantly on the receiving end of attention, you don't really have the motivation to work on all those other qualities that would make someone want to stick around because you're so used to getting the attention. You confuse getting attention. Somebody's sending a question here. Don't confuse getting attention with being able to keep somebody attracted. Let's answer this question from Fabi.
Yeah, is it possible?
Is it possible
out of the friend
zone? Women to get out of the friend zone? Yes, it is. You can use the same procedure that I teach men. We would have to find out which of the emotional needs that he has for the particular man that you're interested in. Which of the emotional needs have you not addressed?
Now, how do you know?
We can find out.
How can you find that? Is that similar to like the love languages, or is this different?
It's in my books. Remember I told you I documented everything and I wrote all those notes over the course of those 3 years where I tried everything?
Yes.
Yeah. That became my library of books. It's called the Emotional Needs Analysis Theories. You go to franktalks.com, you go to the section under coaching that's Emotional Needs Analysis. I have a documented book, about 300-400 pages on the emotional needs of men. I got one on the emotional needs of women called Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test. Go ahead, be angry, I don't care. And it documents what the emotional needs are, how to address them, and that's basically how I take people. 25% of my clientele are adult male virgins who've never had a girlfriend, and give me 3 months with them, working with them week in, week out. I'm teaching them how to address emotional needs, and within 90 days they get their first girlfriend and they lose their virginities.
Oh my God, tell us
Usually
more.
on the first or fifth.
I was going to shut down at 9:30, but tell us more. How do you get these men laid?
Okay, look, most of the guys who are adult male virgins in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, they're not bad guys. Most of them are very well educated, very intelligent. They're good men. And a lot of them they're worried about being too assertive because they don't want to offend a woman. They don't want to hurt a woman. They don't want to, they want a girlfriend. They don't even want to go to a prostitute. That's why they're virgins. They want a girlfriend. So what I teach them is how to spot and address the emotional needs of a woman, so that she says, "Hey, I really like you. Let's you and me hang out together."
But how do they even get there if they're so crippled with fear? How do they even get to the point of, like, do you think online dating is the way to go? How do they even get
every way to meet somebody? Every way to meet somebody is a good way.
How does a man out on the street, how would they approach a woman? Because Toronto...
I don't do that. Stop. First of all, you don't take somebody who's broken or struggling and you don't put them in the street to go up and approach anybody. Okay? That's the biggest mistake that the average dating coach makes, because it's like, that's where there's money, right? You get somebody to approach, make fools of themselves, and they're stuck there and they pay you more money. I don't do that. Approaching is the last thing I teach a guy to do. We start off by saying, okay, first, I want you to memorize the list of 10 emotional needs of women and recite them back to me. Number 2, now I'm going to teach you how to spot them in real time. Number 3, let's go watch a video. Let's go watch a movie. And I want you to spot all the emotional needs of women as they're saying, as they're talking, as they're going through it, so that they learn to spot it in real time. Then I practice with them to write out various stories based on their own lives.
Right.
That those stories address emotional needs. So he might be talking about a camping trip that he took 10 years ago. But if he talks about it in terms of, and we got lost, and I was scared, and I didn't know what to do, and I cried for an hour, or if he says, yeah, we got lost, and I freaked out for a little while, but then I decided that I'm going to fix this. I got to take care of the people I'm with. I'm going to find a way to get us home safe. Now, which of those 2 stories, and it's the same experience, which of those 2 stories is the more attractive? The second one, because in the first one you start feeling like his mother. Oh, poor baby.
No,
in the second one,
feels like he's wearing pants.
In the second one, but in the second one, he's saying, I didn't feel good. I was freaked out, but I got assertive, and women respond to that and say, oh, this is an attractive guy. So he starts addressing emotional needs, and then, and this is critical, as I mentioned before, each woman has a different collection of emotional needs. So while he's talking with you, let's say I tell you the camping story, okay?
Right.
And I address 3 emotional needs in that story. I talk about being assertive. I talk about how there was a little kid with us camping and I went to comfort the kid. And I talk about how safety was number 1 thing on my mind at the time.
Right.
Okay, well, protection and safety, cater to the little girl, and being assertive are 3 emotional needs of women. If in a conversation with you bring up the fact, I really love the way you really took care of that kid, that tells me that cater to the little girl is an important emotional need for you specifically.
Because
so the next...
When you talk about catering to the little girl, I think there's some women on this thread that are not being insulted by that terminology, but feeling like you're sort of like patting women on the head. So is there a way to clarify that?
Okay, first of all, you have to understand that this is not a communication tool for women. This is how I teach men.
I see. Okay.
And the way I teach men is going to be different from the way I would explain it to a woman.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And how do I explain it to a woman? I said it in the initial part here where I said, there's so much pressure on women to be perfect. Sometimes they just want to break from that. Right. So you cater to the attention of the child within, because that's something that's not done enough for women. And women emotionally respond to that with feelings of affection.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see where you're going.
So this is what I'm doing with the guy. Now he's on a date. He's having one conversation with you, tells you a story, addresses 3 emotional needs. You might even say, I love the fact you took charge. Okay, now I know she responds to assertiveness. If she says, I get exactly what you're saying, I'm very protective of all my friends too. Protection and safety is very important to her. Right. So I know to gear the conversations towards those other emotional needs that you have communicated to me, because I am an active listener, that are important to you.
Right. Got it. Okay. Tell us how we can get in contact with you. I feel like I need to have you back. It's like the audience is picking up. Frank and I have been going back and forth for a couple of years, I think. You had been talking about your book, and I sometimes openly admit a lot of people send me stuff, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah, yet another coach that wants to send me a shit. And I'm so
yes, thank you for referring to my work in that way. That's really nice. So
I didn't say yours was shit. I'm saying
okay.
That
I'm so glad we cleared that up. That's good.
No.
Okay, now see, notice. Would a nice guy have just made that comment? No, he would not.
No, he would not have.
That's right. And when I said it, was I being or was I being playful? Was I having fun? Oh, okay. So there's a nice.
What were you catering to just now?
Okay, number one, I'm catering to the fact that if I protect my own reputation, I'm probably going to protect yours. Now, by bringing it up in a humorous way, right. I'm not bashing you. I'm keeping your reputation intact as well. The fact that I made you laugh and I made you say, "Oh," gives you the emotional range. Right. Now, the fact that I did it with some humor and a little bit of tongue-in-cheek and it was playful, well, that will cater to the little girl in you because it was so playful. The fact that I said it at all says, hey, I'm assertive, okay? But I'm not assertive in a bully kind of way. I'm assertive in a way that, okay, I got to be mindful not to say it in that way. Okay, awesome. Now I could have said, you know what, just for that, I'm not coming back on your show, and I could have been a jerk. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying I definitely will come back.
I wasn't talking about your stuff. I'm just saying generally.
It doesn't matter. My behavior has addressed certain emotional needs in you. I don't have to take anything personal.
It certainly has. What was I going to ask you?
You were asking me about just how people can get in contact with me, and then you segued into it's been about 2 years that we've been talking back and forth to do this. How do I know that? I'm an active listener. This is what I teach men to do. I teach them to listen actively to women, to what they say, because that's where her emotional needs are. I don't have to know too much about her. In a 20-minute conversation, you can find out what are people's most dominant emotional needs, and you can address them.
I haven't. I figured out what I was going to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
I figured out what I was going to ask, maybe. This is really bad, eh? I was talking to my friends. It's like, you hit 40 and you forget things.
No, it's because I'm addressing your emotional needs and you're feeling this, and it's going to short circuit the brain.
That's it.
Because I'm just that damn good.
Or I need some ginkgo biloba. Not sure which one.
That too. Okay. So you see, if I wanted to go out on a date with you, I'd say, hey, let's go out to the pharmacy and we're going to go buy some ginkgo. Now I parlayed this, and now we're going to do an Insta date. Let's go out to the pharmacy.
So, how do you? Okay, this is my question for men. Sometimes a man will mistake an assertive woman, right, as she also needs an assertive man. When that's not always true, or vice versa, or there's some alpha females that feel like they want an alpha male, but they really shouldn't be with an alpha male. How do you feel about that?
Okay. Nothing wrong with alpha females. My attitude with that is everybody is the way they are right now because that's how they have learned to survive their life. When somebody is really, really nice or too nice, the reason they're too nice is because as a child in development, they learned that being nice was their way to survive into adulthood. When somebody is overly aggressive as an adult, chances are they have something in their history that taught them to survive into adulthood, you have to be overly aggressive. It's not a question of she should change or he has to change. It is about, and this is a very, very key concept, and I don't know if we're going to have time to delve into it. I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, let's do.
By acknowledging.
Last thought.
I'm just going to try.
Then we get your information, and then we try and get you back here.
Sure.
Okay.
When you identify those traits of yours that you refuse to give up, it is important to figure out what emotional needs you're addressing for yourself. And you are looking for a compatible emotional needs profile to mesh with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So if you are a very dominant person and you may want an equally dominant person because you might be thinking, I want somebody who's going to raise our children the way I would want to raise the children in case something happens to me.
I want to say, what about the yin yang? What about the yin yang? I don't
give a damn about yin yang. I don't give a damn about yin yang. What I care about is each person has an emotional needs profile. And I'm not interested in what superficially attracts people. Because I could be completely attracted to someone and they're not necessarily a good match for me. What I care about is, let me find out what your emotional needs profile is, and let's find out what emotional needs profile would work with that. If there's a match, you're good to go. If there is no compatible match, now you have to make a choice. You're either going to start dating people that you're not necessarily attracted to begin with, but they have a compatible emotional needs profile, or that's when you say, I got to make a change here. As the guy who was that that friend-zoned guy, the clown, the guy who tried to be nice to everybody, I had to make a choice. It was either, look, I'm either going to continue to be too nice and get the results I'm always getting, which I've already described to you, some of them were not very good. It got me to the point where I was suicidal. I'm not going to go through that again. Or I'm going to make that change to become the kind of person that attracts the kind of relationships I want. And now, have I had to sacrifice? Sorry?
And today you're married. Well, you're married and...
I'm married. I have a son. And my wife and I decided to get married after 26 hours together.
Shut your shit. What?
Not the reaction. Yeah, okay. We met and we decided to get married after 26 hours together. When you know what you're looking for, when you know how to spot the red flags, and when you're in the habit of being able to connect with people quickly, that's the type of thing you can have. But before anybody starts jumping on this, 26 hours together is when we just, first of all, our first date was 36 hours. Hour 26 is when we decided we should be married. I want to make something clear here, okay? Because I'm not trying to present this as something ridiculous. Hear me out on this.
I know. I'm listening.
Okay. It was an overnight relationship success that took me 10 years of working on myself to get there. It's not just a matter of I was handed the ball and I took it over the goal line. There was 10 years of working on myself and knowing what I know now. The stuff that I'm communicating to you in an hour is the stuff that I spent years mastering.
Yeah.
So that when I finally meet somebody and I say, wow, this is it. This is what I want. And I know I can have it. 26 hours, I was like, okay, this is it, because I can trust my own judgment. How do I know? Because I made mistakes in the past. I learned from them, and I continued to improve myself in this area.
So how long have you been married now?
At this point, it's been 11 years. It's going to be, it's going to be 11 or 12 years now.
Wow. Okay, so obviously this hour is not going to allow us to get into the whole mind of Frank, but again, I want to show franktalks.com. You'll coach women and men, yes?
Women, men, couples, and all kinds of relationships from traditional monogamous to open consensual non-monogamy.
I didn't touch on it tonight, but you are also a writer on Pornhub.
Yes, it's one of the places that I submit articles to.
So we're going to talk.
I submit articles.
Yeah, I think we need to get you back to talk a little bit about open relationships and sexual exploration, all them things, all them.
I have a book on my website. I'm the author of over 20 books. One of my books is a book on monogamy and non-monogamy. It's basically a beginner's guide to both. So if you are monogamous and you want to transition to non-monogamy, if you're non-monogamous and you want to transition to monogamy, this book is a beginner's level. It's called the Frank Talks Articles Book, Volume 3.
Wow. Okay. Kirk just said, so did you have any issues with your partner after? I don't know what that means.
Did I have any issues with my wife, you mean? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean by that, but maybe after.
Well, let's assume.
Maybe after.
Let's say after, okay.
Hours. Yeah.
The biggest issue we had was her family didn't like me, and they basically abandoned her to be with me. So that was probably the biggest challenge we had to face. Do we fight? Do we sometimes, look, we're a regular couple. I may be an expert in this area, but I bumble along just like anybody else. I make mistakes too, folks. I'm not perfect, okay? I'm not a hero. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes too. I have a pretty good idea of how to fix it when I make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And the mistakes I make, are usually small mistakes. Mm-hmm. But look, we have problems like any other couple. We face the same challenges when it comes to parenting. What I do want to say is that I do believe my wife right now is my best friend. I do believe that we started from a position where we wanted the same kind of future, which makes things a lot easier.
Right.
So a lot of the things that she values, I valued, and having those compatible values helps out. Do we have problems like any other couple? Yes. Do we have the type of problems that make us say, okay, that's it, it's over? Unlikely. Just because of who we were before we met. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so one last time, franktalks.com. He's the author of From Friends to Lovers ebooks. You're going to want to check him out. Frank, let me know if some Real Talk people, let Frank know if Real Talk people came your way. I'd love to know if they actually reached out. I think it's a well-needed service. I know that there's a lot of services for women, but not so much for men or men being able to speak and get the support that they need. But you sound great for us women as well. So I would love to have you back. And thank you so much for being a part of the show. I think it's very clear that the audience loved you. And if you do have questions for Frank down below, leave them. You can even post them after the show. And Frank, you'll agree that you'll pop by and see what kind of...
I'll have a look and yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for my very first time on Facebook.
Hey, show Frank some love. I think you did amazing. You've been very gentle. You've been very gentle for my first time. I am so glad. You got to take time. Find your emotional support. What works for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so quick note. Quick note. Next week, we are talking about medical marijuana and alternative naturopathic lifestyles, getting rid of medications, and talking about how to do things a little bit au natural. But for another week, how I start every show is how I end it. So we're going to just hold on. Here we go.
And I say, yo, who is that? Oh, he's just a friend.
All right, guys.
Don't even give me that. Just watch this.
for another week.
You got what I need.
Thank you, Frank.
But you say he's just a friend. And you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby.
For another week, we are out of here. Thank you, Frank. And we will see you next week. Frank, are you ready?
I'm ready, baby.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Mwah.
See you next week, guys.
My girl, that was so exquisite. It was a